In a dark world, remember to be the light. Welcome to Black Swan Revelations. Here is your host, the Black Swan himself, Shane.
All right, we got lots to cover this morning. Have a look at this. This is the Secret Service director testifying on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So this is going on right now.
In attendance today. Without objection, the chair may declare a recess at any time. I now recognize myself for the purpose of...
So this is going to be interesting. I wasn't going to talk about this too much, but this is important because this is where Secret Service gets into trouble this morning. So this is going on live right now as we speak. So perhaps I will cover this tomorrow sometime and do a thorough analysis because obviously I haven't watched it. So my prediction is this person here, Kimberly Cheater or whatever her name is, Cheatley. I think she's going down with the ship. I really think this is her last day right here. There's too many things going on. And she dropped the ball, and she even said it. She dropped the ball, and usually when you do that, you're basically you're taking the hit, and you're going to be removed. So she deserves to be fired. I said she should have been fired on day one. So I'm actually surprised that this hearing is going on right now so quickly. Like, it's amazing, right? They're cleaning up. I'm telling you, they're cleaning up. All right, so today we're going to talk about the fourth son of David and Joe Biden stepping down briefly. And I wanted to talk a little bit briefly, just a little bit, about Donald Trump's shoes. This is kind of interesting because when he was jumped by the Secret Service, well, the one thing that we could hear him say is, I want my shoes. I want my shoes. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, but I thought it would be appropriate to also talk about another coup that happened in the Old Testament. And that was when one of King David's sons saw weakness and decided to take the throne for himself. And basically forming a coup. So we're going to read a little bit from the third book of Kings. Some people might be aware, or maybe you're not aware, that originally the Samuel, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings were basically 4 books. So first book of Kings, second book of Kings, third book of Kings, fourth book of Kings at one time. Anyways, we're going to jump into 1 Kings. We're going to read a little bit, and then perhaps we'll come back to this testifying if we have time as well. I don't have a lot of time this morning. Probably going to take about an hour. So we're going to try and hammer through this stuff. If you have any questions or whatever, feel free to share it in the comments. I want to go on a hike with my family in a little bit. So I think this will be interesting here. So let's see here. Taurus, I don't know anything about Taurus and all that stuff. So, all right. So let's go into 1 Kings, and let's just have a look here. All right. So let's go into here. 1 Kings. Let's have a look here. Boom. There we go. Let's see. There we go. Right there. Okay. Now, King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes. But he got no heat. Wherefore his servant said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord a king, a young virgin. Let her stand before the king. And let her cherish and let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. So King David was on his last set of legs, if you will, because he was no longer able to have heat. I believe at this time he was probably around 70 years old. So they brought in a lady to take care of King David. And then this is verse 5. Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time in saying, why hast thou done so? And he also was a very goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. So King David never stopped this guy whenever he became rebellious, never said anything to displease Absalom. So he conferred with Joab and with Abiathar the priest, and they followed Adonijah, and they helped him. But Zadok the priest, Benaniah the son of Joadiah, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei and Ray and the mighty men which belonged to David were not with Adonijah. So then we see Adonijah making preparations to declare himself king, but King Nathan, Benaniah, which is King David's one of his mighty men, this guy could have easily been known as the top guy, but he was not the top guy, but he could have easily been. He was for sure in the top 3 of David's 300 mighty men, but he wasn't recognized as the top guy, but he could have been. Wherefore Nathan spake unto Bathsheba, saying, hast thou not heard that Adonijah, the son of Haggith, doth reign? And David our Lord knows it not. Therefore come, let me, I pray thee, give counsel that thou may savest thine own life and thy life of thy son Solomon. So if Bathsheba doesn't do anything soon, she is going to be tried as a treasonist. She's going to be executed on the spot along with her son Solomon if Adonijah becomes king, which is one of David's sons. It's actually his 4th son. Now therefore come, let me, I pray thee, give thee counsel. Okay, go ahead and get thee unto King David. Say unto him, did not thou, my lord king, swear unto thine handmaid, saying, assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit on my throne. Why then doth Adonijah reign? And behold, while yet talkest with the king, I will also come in after thee and confirm thy words. So Bathsheba went in the chamber, and the king was very old, and he said, I'm just going to skim through this. Abishag the Shunammite ministered unto King David, and Bathsheba bowed, and the king said, what do you want? She said, my lord, thou swearest by the Lord thy God unto thine handmaid, saying, assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me. And now behold, Adonijah reigneth, thou knowest not. And he has slain oxen and all this kind of stuff. And Joab the captain of the host is with him. But Solomon thy servant he did not call. And thou, my lord, O king, the eyes of all Israel are upon thee, that thou should tell them who shall sit. Otherwise it shall come to pass, when my lord the king shall sleep with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon shall be counted as offenders, aka traitors. So then while she was talking, Nathan came in, and they said the same thing to King David. Nathan's like, you didn't tell me what's going on here. Surely this can't be true. You would have told me this. And then Zadok came in as well, and Benaniah and all the stuff. Your son, Adonijah, did not tell anyone this. And is this done by you? Because you didn't tell us. Then King David swore, or then King David answered and said, call me Bathsheba. And she came in, stood before the king. King swore and said, as the Lord liveth, and has redeemed my soul of all distress, even as I swear unto thee by the Lord God of Israel, saying, assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit on my throne in my stead. Even so will I certainly do this today. And Bathsheba bowed her face and did reverence. God may let my Lord, the King David, live forever. So then Zadok was called in, all this kind of stuff. Benaniah, everybody was swearing allegiance to the king. And I want to skip down to over to verse 41. Adonijah and all the guests that were with him. So in another area of town, Adonijah and all the guests were with him, heard as they were made at end of eating. And when Job heard the sound of trumpets, he said, "Wherefore is this noise of the king being in an uproar?" And while he yet spoke, behold, Jonathan the son of Abiathar the priest came, and Adonijah said, "Come in, for thou art a valiant man." And this should be usually bring us good tidings, because today he's not bringing good tidings to Adonijah. So he's like, "You bring good news. You've been known to bring in good news. Speak to me." Jonathan answered and said, "Verily, our Lord King David has made Solomon king, and the king has set with him Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benaniah the son of Jehoiada, and the Cherethites, and the Pethlehites." So if you're wondering who these people are, it's okay. I got you. I got your back. These are David's personal bodyguards. David's personal bodyguards. So this is interesting. The Chethlamites, what are they called again? Chethlamites. Let's see, where are they here? Where are they? Cherethites. So think of these guys from Greece. They are Grecians, if you will. They are the earliest Greek soldiers, and they're paying allegiance to King David, which is interesting because most of them lived on the coast of the area known as Philistia, where the Philistines lived. And a lot of them actually came over from Greece and basically wiped out the majority of the Philistines. Remember the guys that King David had to fight all the time? So they were a mixture of people from the coast, and specifically Crete. This is important. So I know a lot of people are, when you go through history and stuff, you're like, all the Palestinians were there and all this kind of stuff. And who are they? Where'd they come from? They were always there and all this kind of stuff. Well, they didn't come from the east, that's for sure. They came from the west. A lot of them, because they would conquer and take over territories, and it just over and over, different nations would come in all along the coast. So it's interesting that King David had these men that were known as mighty men for King David, his personal bodyguards, which is interesting, right? So when we're talking about Trump and the assassination attempt, it kind of reminds me of the Secret Service, and they're on trial right now. As we speak, they're on trial because their job was to protect the former president of the United States, and they did not do that. So now there is a trial with Kimberly Cheatley. It's kind of an interesting last name, don't you think? Interesting. So let's continue on here. And where are we here? Verse. Let's go to verse 44. 44, the priest Solomon sits on the throne. Moreover, the king's servants came to bless our Lord King David, saying, "God make the name of Solomon better than your name." And also the king bless the Lord King of Israel, which had given one to sit on this throne. And all the guests that were with Adonijah were afraid, because now they would be known as this would be known as treason. They would be known as traitors instantaneously. Adonijah feared because of Solomon, rose, went, and caught hold on the horns of honor, and it was altar, and was told Solomon, saying, "Behold, Adonijah feareth the king Solomon, for lo, he hath caught on the horns of the altar." And this is the tabernacle, of course, because the temple wasn't built yet. Saying, "Let King Solomon swear to me that he will not slay his servant with the sword." And Solomon said, "If he will shew thyself a worthy man, there shall not a hair of him fall to the earth. But of wickedness shall be found in him, he shall die. So King Solomon sent. They brought him down from the altar, and he came, bowed himself to King Solomon. Solomon said unto him, go to their house. So he showed mercy to Adonijah. All right, so coming back to now, we're trying to put things together a little bit. So what's the significance of this verse? Well, it's interesting that after the debate, and we watched it live here, we watched the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It felt like what was going on with Joe Biden just went like this. He lost the debate, was humiliated. They tried to resurrect Joe Biden with an interview a week or so later. That didn't work. It actually made things worse. And then you had George Clooney, you had all these celebrities saying to Joe Biden, step down. You had his inside people saying, step down. It was very confusing for the Democrats. Very confusing. Even from here in Canada, it was very confusing to watch what was going on, because you could literally see the plane going down for the Democrats. And Trump was basically just standing by watching the plane crash. And then we had the assassination attempt just over a week ago. And there were fingers being pointed that surely the Democrats did this. And what's interesting is during the rally, Trump was saying, talking about the media, he says, normally they don't cover the media very good. And this time, and the crowd started booing. And he's like, no. The media covered it fairly. They covered it fairly, which is interesting. I hadn't seen that from Donald Trump before, where he's like, usually he's like the fake news and all this stuff, but he actually calmed it down. And he spoke about unity, bringing everyone together. And it was just interesting that he approached it from that way. Even when you think about it, when you watch the rally, people didn't run. And there were lots of people. I actually saw the reverse angle of what was going on, and it went on forever. The crowds went on forever. I was actually shocked, because I was thinking maybe 1,000 people, a couple thousand people on that side, maybe a few thousand on each side, but it went on forever. It seemed like it went on forever. It's probably at least 30, 50,000 people. That's a lot of people in the crowd. It's a lot of people to control. So lots of stuff going on. So now when we're talking about the shoe falling off, like Donald Trump had mentioned that he got tackled so hard that his shoes popped off his feet. And he's like, I need my shoes. But I watched footage of where one of the Secret Service actually took one of his shoes and threw it onto the ground. And there's actually footage that you can actually see from the reverse angle of one of Donald's shoes being left. So they did not get his shoes on, which is interesting, right? So he didn't wear the shoes. So now I'm going to tie this in with some scripture. What does this mean? What does this mean, Donald Trump not having his shoes? I think there's lots of spiritual significance to this, and I'm going to share some verses with you. I'm just going to read them out. I'm going to read my thoughts to you, so you can have a look, and then maybe we'll go back to the live footage of the trial for Kimberly Cheatley. All right, so what's going on with Donald Trump and his shoes? What's interesting, in the New Testament, there's a verse that talks about putting on the whole armor of God, and one of those pieces of armor is actually shoes, which represent the gospel of peace, which is interesting, right? So if you think about the gospel of peace, for example, Ephesians 6:15, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. This is what we are to do as Christians. And during the assassination attempt, Donald's shoes got knocked off his feet. So if you're talking about peace throughout the world, it's interesting that Donald's shoes got knocked off his feet. And usually the idea, again, of having shoes is you're ready. You're ready to promote peace, the gospel of peace. And when your shoes get knocked off, like it did with Trump, and he's wanting to get his shoes on, and the Secret Service took his shoe and threw it to the ground, that's interesting, one, because they didn't want him to have his shoes on, and they ushered him off the stage. Now, I understand that you don't want to take time to unlace his shoes and put them back on and all this kind of stuff. I get it. I get it. But somebody could have grabbed his shoes and brought him with him. They did not do that. Nobody did that. In fact, they threw his shoe to the ground. So that is symbolic as well for the Secret Service. It's almost like an insult to the Donald. So if you go to Exodus 3:5, this is where we get the first significance of the kinsman redeemer, talking about removing the shoe to help a brother out, especially when he is dead and he has a wife and he has no children. You're supposed to actually marry that woman. If you're single, you marry, and then you can actually allow your brother to carry on with his lineage. So Exodus 3:5, and something happens to a person when they don't do that. And he said, draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes. Oh, this is when Moses shows up at the burning bush. He said, draw not nigh hither, but put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place where thou standest is holy ground. So what's interesting here is God told Moses to remove his shoes. In the case of Donald Trump, he was actually tackled and his shoes came off. Almost caught him off guard, unawares. So in Deuteronomy 25, verse 9 and 10, we read, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house, and his name shall be called in Israel the house of him that hath his shoe loosed. Interesting, right? So again, if you think about the gospel of peace and Donald Trump's shoes come off, and one of the Secret Service actually throws a shoe onto the ground, disrespecting him, and also leaves the other shoe, you start to piece some symbolism together, because it was a sign of disrespect if you don't help build your brother's house up. The wife of that brother that is deceased can actually remove the shoe off of your foot and then slap you in the face with that shoe, and that is your reputation. Your reputation is known as someone that does not help build your brother's house up. So if you notice, again, the last few words are the house of him that hath his shoe loosed. What's interesting is John the Baptist, when people were asking him, are you the one that was to come? Basically asking him if he's the Messiah. He said, no, I'm not worthy to loose up his shoes or to untie his shoes or to lace them up. Can't remember which way it went. That would be kind of interesting. Let me just see. Let me just make sure. I think it's important. I want to make sure I get that right. All right, so let's see here. Trying to find it here. One sec. One second. I'm just finding the verse. All right. not worthy to unloose. So John 1:27, he it is who coming after me is preferred before me, whose shoes latchet I am not worthy to unloose. So he's not even going to touch Jesus' shoes. It's basically saying I'm not worthy to untie Jesus' shoes. So that's kind of interesting in itself, don't you think? All right, so let's go back up. Let's see here. Where are we? We've got Exodus, we've got Deuteronomy. So when we talk about shoes, you talk about possessions, really, when you think about it. So let's see what else we can come up with here. So what's interesting is, in the Old Testament, the removing of shoes is a sign of reverence and holiness. Moses did this at the burning bush, acknowledging God's presence. Loosing shoes unexpectedly can signify an unplanned encounter with the divine or a moment of forced reverence. So if you think about it from the Donald's point of view, this was a reverential moment because his shoes were forced off his feet. And he even said this, I shouldn't be here. I should not be here, meaning he should be dead. So he understood providence, that God actually saved him. You can't deny what he said. He said it. You could say, I don't think he believed what he said or knew what he said. The point is, he said it. You would probably say the same thing if that happened to you. If you got shot and if you got blown off your feet and your shoes fell off, it is definitely a reverential moment, to be sure. There's lots of stuff going on. So again, shoes symbolize readiness and protection in the spiritual battle, specifically the gospel of peace. Losing shoes can metaphorically signify losing one's preparedness and peace, highlighting the importance of being spiritually equipped. So it's interesting, right? So when you think about John the Baptist, he expressed his unworthiness to even untie Jesus' shoes, highlighting the humility and reverence we should have towards Christ. This can be linked to the idea of losing shoes as a reminder of our need for humility and recognition of Jesus' supreme authority. The Secret Service did not recognize Donald Trump's authority as a president because they did not protect him. They did not protect him. Interesting stuff, right? Interesting. Lots of stuff going on with shoes, I'm telling you. And I don't know if anyone else is talking about this. It's interesting. All right, so let's see here. Tries to take the throne before Solomon. Solomon, a type of Christ. Yep, you could pose the argument that Solomon would be a type of Christ or a type of Antichrist. What? Not Solomon. Solomon did everything perfect. Well, Solomon actually caused the split of the nation of Israel. It was because of him. It's 300 wives and 600, 700 concubines. He worshipped every god under the sun. That's something to think about. We're talking about King Solomon here, folks. And all nations paid tribute to King Solomon. So I understand the idea that you would say that because it's King Solomon, one of David's sons, that you go, oh yeah, this is a type of Christ. But this could also be a type of Antichrist. Why? Don't forget he got paid 666 talents of gold a year for his wages. People were paying him money to be the king, which is interesting. They paid tribute. And he had peace all over the place for the first time in history. This is why King David was not able to build the temple. It wasn't just because he killed Uriah, murdered him. It was because there was no peace. Imagine being at war and trying to build a temple. You can't do it. You have to have peace in order to build a temple. During King Solomon's reign, he had peace for 40 years. Good morning, Kat. Lots of stuff going on here. So I could build a strong case that King Solomon would be more like a picture of what the Antichrist will be like. Merciless. Black and white. Basically, this is it. Bring me this child. Whose child is this? Oh, you say it's your child? Or you say it's her child? Or you say it's my child? Okay, give me a sword. And I'm going to cut this child in half. And then you can have half, and you can have half. That's ruthless. Ruthless aggression. And everyone was in awe afterwards, going, wow, such wisdom to King Solomon. Really? He was going to slice a child in half to prove his point. He's not a leader to be messed with. Very smart, very intelligent, and brought in worship for just about every god under the sun. And Israel never rebounded to this day. They still haven't rebounded. Why? The 10 northern tribes disappeared. They got mixed into the world. And Joseph doesn't even know who he is anymore. Israel doesn't even know who they are anymore today. And that goes all the way back to King Solomon. Interesting stuff, right? So when you're talking about shoes, Donald Trump did not remove his shoes. His shoes were knocked off his feet when he got tackled by the Secret Service. And he's like, I need my shoes. I need my shoes. He went into that car without his shoes on. I think most people think that they took time to put his shoes on, but they didn't. They're waiting to make sure that the shooter was down, which is interesting in itself because for some reason they knew that there was only one shooter. Some people are saying now there's two. There's two shooters, two different angles. Some people are saying there was somebody on the watchtower. Like, man, they have to close this off quickly. This is why this Kimberly lady is on trial today to testify what happened, and she's responsible for it. So I think this would be a good time to go to it. We're going to watch some of it, even though it's I wanted to start it just from the beginning so that you can get a feel of what's going on with this testimony from the Secret Service director, and then maybe make your comments or whatever. But I think there's still going to be more stuff to come. And again, I keep saying it over and over again. Last week was a Black Swan event. And many people are like, no, that's not the Black Swan event. That was a Black Swan event because you couldn't predict it. You could say, you could hint that someday Trump could be assassinated, but he didn't get assassinated. He got nicked in the ear, got shot in the face. Most people would say your ears are part of your face, your eyes are part of your face, your nose is part of your face, part of your head. He got shot in the head. This should have been a fatal wound. Didn't. And Donald Trump realized that. He said, I shouldn't be here. Why? Because he got shot in the head. These are things you have to think about. Can't just go, oh, somebody planned to shoot him in the ear. No, I've watched enough footage to see what happens with the grouping with an AR-15 from 100, 130 meters out. Your grouping with the scope that you have on there, which is just a red dot, has to be. Now, somebody's probably going to think I'm doing symbols. and all this kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm trying to do. I shouldn't have done that, but it's like, it reminded me of Jim Carrey. But if you think about the grouping, so bad. This channel is going to get banned now. Watch this. All right. So the grouping, what I'm trying to show you, because every time I try and make a circle with my hands, people get mad and they go, he's doing symbols with his hands. Well, how do you communicate with your hand? I don't even have anything that's round. Let's use this then. This is a, pretend this is a grouping at about 100, 130 meters, roughly. This is as close as you're going to get to a target. So picture this. How can I do this here? Right here. So picture this. Basically, the shooter was trying to shoot at a grouping at about like this. And if you picture Donald Trump looking over at the sign, and he's talking about it, he's like, look at that chart. Isn't that a beautiful chart? And he goes like this. It's not just that he did this. This didn't cause the miss. Think about it. He didn't just turn his head. What he did is he leaned because he wanted to see the chart. So this little lean forward and the head tilting is providence. Providence. That saved his life just by doing this right here. That little tiny. It wasn't just this. No, like the grouping again from the sniper, if you think about it, was trying to get him right in the center of his head. And when he turned and then he went like this, it missed. It nicked his ear. You can't get any closer than this from 130. Not with a red dot. And if there's wind, you're going to miss a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, depending on the wind. Because that's what happened. Corey got hit first, and then two other people got hit behind the former President Donald Trump. So 3 people got injured. Maybe more, but for sure 3. And there were like 7 shots fired. And then the second group of snipers actually took the kill shot. And they're still talking about that. So lots of stuff going on. Lots of stuff, right? Yeah, I've seen the footage from the water tower. It's not very clear, so I'm hoping that what you see is clear, because a blur is very tough, especially in the heat. It's very tough to see the water tower. So let's go to the Secret Service here, and let's listen in on what's going on here, because I think this is going to be something as well. This is going to be something, and I think I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow.
Making an opening statement, but first, without objection, Representative Mills of Florida and Representative Miller of Ohio are waived onto the committee for the purpose of questioning the witness at today's hearing. Without objection to order. Good morning. Today's hearing is for the American people who are seeking answers about the attempted assassination of President Trump. A little over a week ago, Americans watched in horror as a shooter attempted to assassinate President Donald J. Trump at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The gunman nearly succeeded. The bullet that struck President Trump's head was less than an inch from taking his life. President Trump survived, but one rallygoer, Corey Comparator, tragically did not. 2 others were seriously injured. It was a horrifying moment in American history. The horror was exceeded only by the bravery of the law enforcement agents who threw themselves in harm's way when shots were fired. The bravery of a crowd unwavering in its refusal to panic, and the bravery of a bloody President Trump refusing to run. While we give overwhelming thanks to the individual Secret Service agents who did their jobs under immense pressure, this tragedy was preventable. The Secret Service's protective mission is to protect U.S. and visiting world leaders and safeguard U.S. elections through protection of candidates and nominees. The Secret Service has a zero-fail mission, but it failed on July 13th and in the days leading up to the rally. The Secret Service has thousands of employees and a significant budget, but it has now become the face of incompetence. The committee has a long track record of providing oversight of the Secret Service. Our predecessors, both Jason Chaffetz and Elijah Cummings, among others, worked together to issue warnings and recommendations to address obvious shortcomings in the agency's makeup and operations. Unfortunately, those warnings and recommendations have gone unheeded. A former president and current candidate for president was shot in the head by a sniper within 500 feet of the podium. This is unacceptable, and we are concerned the Secret Service lacks the proper management to keep protectees safe from bad actors. Americans demand answers, but they have not been getting them from the Secret Service. We are instead learning about new facts about the events surrounding the...
Okay, so let's go to the facts. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, so I think this is important as well to see what they know. And we're just going to watch a little bit of it. I'm going to share my thoughts, and then I think you guys should go watch this live on your own time later, because it's probably going to be in the news coming down the pipe. So let's just see here. Let's go right here.
People died and nearly 2,700 people were wounded in these attacks in 2023. Mass shootings are commonplace. They happen at political rallies and constituent meetings, in our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, in churches, synagogues, and mosques, in movie theaters and parades, in nightclubs and grocery stores, in concerts, and on street corners. Here are the worst mass shootings in the last 11 or 12 years. The list is a grim reminder of the horrific damage and death wrought by assault weapons and the AR-15 in particular that have taken the lives of our children, parents, colleagues, and neighbors. This is a very partial list. Mass shootings have become so frequent that we don't even hear about them anymore. Since the mass shooting in Butler, there have already been at least 10 additional...
So I think this guy is a Democrat, and his position is AR-15s are what the problem is. It's not the shooter. This is what I'm thinking where he's going with this, because I think they have representation from both the Republicans and Democrats as well. So let me just skip ahead. I'm not disagreeing that guns kill people. I'm not disagreeing with that. I want to hear what she says. Man, they got their charts going and everything. Okay, so let's go to Kimberly here.
Office on September 17th, 2022 as the Director of the United States Secret Service. Prior to her appointment, Director Cheadle was Senior Director of Global Security at PepsiCo. Before her role at Pepsi, she served 27 years in the Secret Service. Pursuant to Committee Rule 9G, the witness will please stand and raise her right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witness answered in the affirmative. Thank you. We certainly appreciate...
Some people don't like this when they swear. I do, because you're making a vow before the people, and you're swearing that you're telling the truth. I think this is important to have this, because now you have witnesses in front of you that you're promising to tell the truth, and not only before the people, but before God. So I think it's vital to have someone swear.
Appreciate you being here today and look forward to your testimony. We normally limit testimony to opening statement to 5 minutes, but take all the time that you need. Obviously, the rules that we will abide by. When you're finished with your statement, we will then turn to questions. Each member will have 5 minutes. And just a note to the members, I'm going to strictly adhere to the 5 minutes. Once 5 minutes is up, I will hit the gavel. If the director is in the process of answering a question, we'll certainly let her finish her answers, and then we will move on. We're going to have about 100% attendance here today, plus a few additional add-ons. So this will be a very lengthy hearing, and we want to make sure every member gets their 5 minutes uninterrupted to be able to ask these important questions in this very bipartisan hearing today. I now recognize Director Cheadle for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Comer, Ranking Member Raskin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Cheadle, and I'm the Director of the United States Secret Service. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on July 13th is the most significant operational failure of the Secret Service in decades, and I am keeping him and his family in my thoughts. I would like to offer my sincerest condolences to the family of Corey Comparator, a former fire chief and a hero who was killed in this senseless shooting. I would also like to acknowledge those who were injured in Butler, David Dutch and James Copenhagen, and I wish them a speedy recovery. I would be remiss if I did not also extend my condolences on the passing of your colleague, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Ms. Jackson Lee was always engaged in the oversight of the Secret Service, and her passing is a great loss to this body. The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again. Let me state unequivocally, nothing I have said should be interpreted to place blame for this failure on our federal, state, or local law enforcement partners who supported the Secret Service in Butler. We could not do our job without them. We rely on the relationships built over years of working together to secure events and conduct investigations. Our agents, officers, and support personnel understand that every day we are expected to sacrifice our lives to execute a no-fail mission. As witnessed on July 13th, our special agents shielded former President Trump with their own bodies on stage while shots were being fired. Selflessly willing to make the ultimate sacrifice without hesitation. I am proud beyond words of the actions taken by the former president's detail, the counter-sniper team who neutralized the gunman, and the tactical team who was prepared to act. I will be transparent as possible when I speak with you, understanding, though, at times that I may be limited in providing a thorough response in this open setting due to associated risks with sharing highly sensitive protective methodologies. I do not want to inadvertently provide you today with inaccurate information. Since January 1st, 2024, the Secret Service has successfully secured over 7,500 sites. Every protective advance comes with its own set of challenges and requires a customized mitigation strategy, including literally a matter of life and death. And the tragic events on July 13th remind us of that. I have full confidence in the men and women of the Secret Service. They are worthy of our support in executing our protective mission. I will now answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you very much, Director Cheadle. We'll now begin our 5 minutes questions, and I will begin. Just for the record, the Secret Service has an annual budget of around $3.1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
This is going to be pivotal right here. Her answer will determine whether or not she remains as the U.S. Secret Service director. So I'm going to back it up with the question. So at any time during the day, did you guys know about this roof, basically? So this is going to be interesting. Let me just back it up.
Annual budget of around $3.1 billion, and I believe around 8,000 employees. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, there were many security failures on the day of the attempted assassination and leading up to that day. Let's start with the building that the shooter used to shoot President Trump from. At any point Saturday, did the Secret Service have an agent on top of that roof?
Sir, I'm sure as you can imagine that we are just 9 days out from this incident, and there's still an ongoing investigation. And so I want to make sure that any information that we are providing to you is factual.
You can't, okay. Why did the Secret Service not, can you answer why the Secret Service didn't place a single agent on the roof?
We are still looking into the advanced process and the decisions that were made.
Well,
Again, she's done. One question, and she can't answer it. She's done. Done, like dinner. Cooked.
okay. Wasn't that building within the perimeter that should be secured? Do we agree with that?
The building was outside of the perimeter on the day of the visit. But again, that is one of the things that during the investigation, we want to take a look at and determine whether or not other decisions should have been made.
One of the things that you said, I believe in an interview, that there wasn't an agent on the roof because it was a sloped roof. Is that normal? And do you fear that that immediately creates an opportunity for future would-be assassins to look for a slanted roof? I mean, this is a huge question that every American has. Why wasn't a Secret Service agent on the roof? And there have been reports that agents were supposed to be on the roof, but it was hot that day and they didn't want to be on the roof. Can you answer any of those questions, Director?
So I appreciate you asking me that question, Chairman. I should have been more clear in my answer when I spoke about where we placed personnel in that interview. What I can tell you is that there was a plan in place to provide overwatch, and we are still looking into responsibilities and who was going to provide overwatch. But the Secret Service in general, not speaking specifically to this incident, when we are providing overwatch, whether that be through counter snipers or other technology, prefer to have sterile rooftops.
Did the Secret Service use any drones for surveillance? It's that day.
So again, I'm not going to get into specifics of that day in itself, but there are times during a security plan that the Secret Service does deploy an asset like a drone.
There were reports that the shooter used a drone just a few hours before the rally start time. Is that accurate?
I have heard those same reports, and again, am waiting for the final report.
Do you know, if you can't answer the question, that's your answer. But can you answer this? Do you know? I'm not asking yes or no, but do you know if the shooter used a drone before the shooting?
That information has been passed to us from the FBI.
How many Secret Service agents were assigned to President Trump on the day of the rally?
Again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of the numbers of personnel that we had there.
Wow. Okay. That's enough for today. I'm going to make another video on this because guilty as charged. Man, oh man. She's covering up something majorly, or she's incompetent. So this is not a good look for the Secret Service. Not a good look at all. So I'm going to be covering this sometime tomorrow. Hopefully you guys can watch this as well on your own time. And then tomorrow when we reconvene, you'll have some more answers as to what she said, what she testified to, and all this. And I think it's going to be a lot of deny. I can neither confirm or deny, all this kind of stuff. Like we've seen this stuff before. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like she's done. I think after today, she's going to be removed as well. Like you can't have incompetence, especially the top of the Secret Service. You can't have this. Crazy, right? All right. So, yeah, it's craziness. It's crazy, man. So I'm going to be watching this later. But like I said, I got to go for a little hike with my family. Otherwise, I'd be on here all day. But we all have lives, right? We all have lives. So enjoy your day. And again, if you want to, if there's something, if you're watching this right now, send me an email on any news related to this. If there's something that she said that's crazy, or if there's footage of the shooting, the assassination attempt, or whatever that you want me to have a look at, just send me the link in an email or send me the name of the video on YouTube and I'll go look it up. If you want to be a guest on this channel, you could just type in Black Swan pod requests at gmail.com, and then I'll have a look at why you want to be on this channel as a guest, and then maybe I can bring you on board. I think that would be cool. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you guys got something out of this today, and we will see you in another video. Bye for now.
Black Swan Revelations here on YouTube brought you today's mind-bending journey. Dive into the discussion, your comments, questions, prayer requests, and powerful testimonies of Jesus' love are what fuel this community. Did today's episode hit home? Smash that like button. New here? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a live stream or a video upload. Thanks for being part of today's adventure. Catch you in the next video, or maybe even in the clouds. Stay curious, stay blessed.